By the time you're hearing this, it's not Luffy's birthday anymore, but yeah, happy birthday, Luffy. And so with that being said, I want to talk about Luffy for a little bit. I know the stigma or the narrative that's out there is that I hate this kid, and I don't. I really don't. I really like Luffy a lot. In more ways than one, Luffy has changed my life. Well, Luffy and how he's impacted the story of One Piece has literally changed my life. And so, just quickly, I'll say one thing I appreciate, and you can put it in the comment section. Just one thing I really appreciate about Luffy that I've tried to adopt into my life, just in general, is confidence. Luffy is maybe mind-numbingly confident. One would say overconfident, to a point that you may look at it and logically say, what the hell are you doing most of the time? However, that's something that I respect, and it's something that I have no problem trying to emulate, just because overconfidence is not a bad thing most of the time. It can be a bad thing because you can suffer consequences. When you're overconfident, you can put yourself in situations which you can really get hurt, but then your ego and several other factors can trick you to believe that these situations are not what they seem. So overconfidence, it's dependent on the person. Of course, they've done studies on this. I've actually researched some of this. At certain ages, people, young men, you go through this phase of overconfidence where you feel like you are invincible and that nothing can hurt you, and that's when you get the most hurt, typically before the age of 25. And then at some point you realize, you know what? I am not that. I'm not a superhero. And then you mellow out a bit and you realize I should probably look at things a bit more logically and understand that I really can die if I choose to jump from Sky Island. Not necessarily how I view things. However, I respect Luffy's confidence and the fact that he's never lacking that. I mean, the moments in which Luffy questioned himself, it was necessary because the story, how Oda set it up, it was meant to do that, meant to force him to grow, right? To show you're not as good as you probably think you are, not in a way that's detrimental to his character, just letting you know you got a little bit more to go, little bro. However, that's something I really appreciate. But today, I know that's kind of a long thing, but that's something I truly appreciate about the kid. It is really his confidence. However, I want to talk about him ascending Roger. Essentially, why he must and he has no choice but to be greater than Roger. People say it all the time, but what does that really consist of? To be greater than someone means you must accomplish more than them, maybe in a similar fashion, faster, more extravagantly, more flamboyantly. And Luffy will do all these things. Of course, there are a lot of things playing in his favor. First of all, he's the main character of the story. Secondly, he has the most amazing crew ever assembled. People are gonna say, the Rocks Pirates, I don't know if they qualify as a real crew. They're more mercenaries coming together for big scores. And third, he subscribed to the B.D.A. Law channel. Come on, y'all know I was gonna do it. Subscribe to the channel, okay? Drop a like, turn on post notifications. Look down, make sure you are subscribed. If you're already subscribed, drop a like. But seriously, Luffy has some things that's working in his favor. First off, he is not the first to do it. We know there is value in being a trailblazer. There's a value and a certain respect that I have for people that do it first. You're the person that had to make the way. You had to go through the trials and tribulations and then somewhat leave behind a blueprint. Now, not saying Roger was necessarily first, because we owe that to Joy Boy, but it was 800 years ago. Roger wasn't necessarily 800 years, but pretty damn close. And he had to travel much longer than Luffy. Now, I don't like pitting Roger versus Luffy because I think in just what they've already accomplished, Roger obviously, and for Luffy, even now, the things he's done to the world, he should be arrested for the rest of his life, probably executed publicly. The Impo Down stuff, the Marineford stuff, just how disrespectful he's been to the world government, justified by the way. He's someone that is a war criminal. He needs to be shot immediately. But, perspective is important because we're watching the story, or we're following the story from Luffy's perspective. So we're going to agree with the things he does because we see the bad things and the repercussions of what the world government does. Now, something interesting about this is that we don't typically see the bad things to what Luffy does, right? We just see the positive because it's sensationalized that a pirate's life is the life for me. But what about the Impo Down stuff, right? That's kind of glossed over, where Luffy literally just caused a mass breakout of really dangerous people and then collateral damage. However, back to Luffy versus Roger. The two are, obviously polarizing great men who had a distinct quality that made other great men follow them. And I think even in real life, that's something that's apparent. Somebody or leader of men, that's something that you have to respect, because for Luffy he has Zoro, and obviously Roger has Rayleigh, and then other great people among them. Look at Odin, right? Odin even went as far as to leave someone like Whitebeard, a great man in his own right, different ideals, completely different mindset, and go to Roger. Now, people tried to use it and say, well, this basically is showing why Roger is greater than Whitebeard. I think in different contexts, right? It just depends on what you value. For me, Whitebeard is just as great because there's, to me at least, there's a certain soft spot that I have in regards to people that value family. And Whitebeard went as far as to strictly choose to build a family on the seas, basically made of a band of ruffians, because most of these men, he didn't even know them when they got on his crew. I mean, look at Blackbeard. But this is what he chose to do because he didn't have a family, right? And then even whilst doing that, he was supporting an entire island, right, in which he grew up. So that's great in its own right. However, Roger was the person, and, you know, Shanks probably adopted this in Yasop, where it's about the journey. It's about accomplishing the mission, regardless of how many kids or whatever kid you have behind. Of course, in his later days, he spent his time with Rouge, and, you know, they made Ace. Of course, it is hinted that Roger was around kids before, really talked about that. Not sure if it's his kids or if, you know, his brother's kids. Who the hell is his brother? I don't know. But I'd assume his brother would be mad at the world government. Would it be crazy if Roger's brother was Dragon? That makes no sense, because that would mean that Garp. Anyway, what I'm saying is Roger's greatness is exemplified by not only the things he accomplished, but how people speak about him. Whitebeard's is as well, but Roger, the legacy and the things he left behind, it is like a dream. How people talk about Roger, it's either, of course, great or really bad. Like, oh my God, we hate Roger because Roger basically was the reason why everyone else failed. You were either the best or the worst. You were either Roger or nobody. Of course, there are people in between that carved out their own lane, but let me get back to the topic at hand. Luffy has to ascend and surpass Roger in more ways than one, and I don't know if Luffy really cares about any of that, right? Because that's the thing. Roger was intentional while Luffy is not necessarily about these things. In regards to ideology, Roger was a lot more in tune with everything that was going on. He wanted to know about the history. He wanted to be a trailblazer. He wanted to be the first. He was the person that was intent on doing these things, where Luffy, a lot more simple, a lot more straightforward, I think. And because of how Luffy's more so carefree nature, Oda has surrounded Luffy with, I think, a greater crew than even Roger. Of course, you had the Rayleigh, the Scopper, and then there's some other people, Crocus. There's a drop-off, I think. Luffy is literally surrounded by the best of the best, in my opinion, in Zoro, Nami, Jinbei, Sanji, Chopper, Usopp, Robin, Frankie, Brook. It is an insane cast put together, and every single one, you could argue, is at the top or near the top of what they do best, right? And that's to supplement what Luffy lacks, which means that Roger all around was probably a person that could accomplish more on his own, where for Luffy, I think as a leader of men and inspiring people, I don't think there's no one like him. I think the fact, again, his confidence or overconfidence, it is infectious. Just being around him and seeing, again, how he goes from happy-go-lucky to turning into a goddamn devious tyrant for his friends and for his dream, how can you not be inspired by that? When everyone meets him, how persistent he is, how, again, intentional he is about the simple things. I want to save you because I care about you and the things you care about. I don't care about the backstory. When Nami was talking about her, I don't even care. It is what it is. I'm going to help you, right? So in regards to greatness, Luffy's greatness is going to consist of not only, again, going to Laugh Tale, I think they did go to Lodestar, but also resetting the world. What does that look like? Of course, it comes with more knowledge about the Void Century and, you know, the ancient kingdom and how they were overran, the world government and their current purpose, establishing a new world order. Not intentional about it. However, that is his mission, his goal. Some might say his fate. And that, of course, comes with him being the sun god Nika and, you know, Joy Boy, not the Joy Boy of the past, but this new type of Joy Boy, which I don't think Roger was. Now, again, Joy Boy more than likely was a title which Roger, I think, had the qualifications to be. He was just too early. And I think Joy Boy, it is literal and it's not, where the person who is Joy Boy is literally a representation of someone who enlists joy wherever they go. And for Roger, that's the type of person he was, unless you crossed him and crossed his friends, because then he turned into a goddamn devil. For Luffy, it's somewhat the same way, but he turns into a devil for meat. That could be taken out of context. It was just a perfect time. Sure, Hoshi was being born, the other sovereign, whomever that may be, is being born, the 20-year thing with Toki, Kaido, all these things came came together so Luffy can accomplish these things that Roger could not. Because even if Roger was on time, he wouldn't be able to accomplish the things that Luffy can, which it's interesting because Roger, after he got diagnosed, he lived a couple of years, and after he was about to die, he spent, a year with Rouge. Then he went and got executed himself. For Luffy, how long will it take for him to actually go and find Laugh Tale and then ultimately change the world forever? And then something that I'm always thinking about is the post-Luffy world, meaning after Luffy accomplishes everything he set out to do, what does that look like? Is it just Fujitora, the fleet admiral, and the world government actually becomes a democracy and not the current structure that it is now? Every island does have the wherewithal to rule over themselves. Each island does not have to adhere to the tax from the celestial dragons because they'll be gone. How does the world then operate? It's really interesting. This video is just a gush about Luffy and of course Roger as well. Two monumental men in the One Piece world that I don't think we'll ever see anyone like these two until we get a Joy Boy flashback. Amazing individuals, and it's inevitable. Luffy will have to ascend Roger. Some are already arguing that he already has. I think he still has a bit more to go. But either way, let me know how you feel about Luffy. It's his birthday. Well, by the time you hear this, it's not his birthday anymore, but his birthday was fairly recent, so give your thoughts. Your favorite thing about Luffy, leave that below. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you so much. Again, guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, I start doubting me, I felt lost.